Last week, we began the story that many of you are familiar with. Okay, the story of Daniel in the lion's den. So, the story part of it, I'm sure that you know. I'm going to just review briefly what we got to. So, the narrative actually begins with Darius coming to power and dividing the kingdom in a way in which he himself is the ultimate ruler and director with three major forces underneath him. Okay, Daniel is put on top of them. The others are jealous of Daniel, so all of their accusations come from jealousy. Okay, what's the accusation? They could find nothing wrong with what he did, no scandal, no misdeed. So what they did was to try to convince the king that as a show of loyalty, now that the kingdom was being reorganized, that people should only bring requests to him for 30 days and not to any god. So their intention was, and this is basically where we left off, what was their intention? Their intention was to, again, going back to Nebuchadnezzar, his way of thinking, that humans could have absolute power. So the idea of praying to a god for one's need, even in today's world, there are people who view this as a threat. The Marxists viewed it as a threat. They would call religion the opiate of the masses. In liberal circles, religion is viewed as a threat for the same reason. They would like to see the state and their own sense of compassion as being the ultimate controllers of human faith. So the king agreed with this, and Daniel was found praying. Okay, so we left off with Daniel doing this terrible deed, praying to Hashem even though it was forbidden by the law. Okay, so up to Perek Vav Pasuk Yud Aleph. V'Daniel k'dei yada d'yirashem ketava al lebeite. Daniel, although he knew what was written in the law, went up to his house. V'chavin petichan le baliote, and the windows were opened for him in the attic of his house. In other words, he had windows that would open in his attic. Neged Yerushalayim, facing Yerushalayim. Bezimen talita biyoma, and 3 times a day. Huberech al berchohi, he would bow on his knees. Umatzale, and he would pray. Umedei kadam alokei, and thank Hashem. And everything that he had done before, he did now. Meaning, even though he knew that it was forbidden by the king, he didn't change his behavior. So let's look at this pasuk. Notice what Daniel did. He faced Yerushalayim when he davened 3 times a day, and it's from him that we learned that this is what one should do. Face south. Okay. So, obviously we face east, but it's still to Yerushalayim. What's that about? So what that's about is seeing Yerushalayim as the spiritual center of reality. Yerushalayim, as you know through the names it had, Moriah, Shalem, Yerushalayim, Hari Hashem Yeroeh, Bet Kel, Shar Shamayim. It's the place in which from the very beginning Hashem's attachment to the world was revealed. It's the place of birth. It's the root of the world. So when he would pray, he would do this by physically positioning himself in a way that showed that he saw the world as having a beginning and a purpose. And that purpose is Yerushalayim, to see that which is most whole, Hashem himself, Har Hashem Yeroeh. So when we begin to daven, facing Yerushalayim is supposed to put us into that state. So you'll find in some Siddurim it'll say, so B'kavin, see yourself facing Yerushalayim, towards the Beis HaMikdash, in the Kodesh Kodshim, seeing the very source of all reality, Hashem. So at that point, that means that you're supposed to rise above all physical distraction, even the distraction of your own voice. And this is what Daniel would do 3 times a day. Now he did this even though he was aware of the illegality of prayer. So why did he do this? Davening isn't Yahari V'al Yavor. So the reason he did this is that he was convinced in his own mind that the difference between what he was doing and what the king forbade was so vast that he would never, never be caught by the king. He wasn't trying to appease an angry God who would supply his needs. That isn't what he was doing at all. He wasn't trying to use prayer as a grocery list. He was trying to experience his own direct connection to and dependency on Hashem and to thank Him. And to implore Hashem for his needs, not because he has a grocery list and Hashem doesn't know what he needs, but because everything comes from him, from Hashem ultimately. Through the king, through this, through that, but from Hashem. He couldn't imagine anybody having an issue with this.